Exposed, the incredible moment 12 townsfolk revealed their unexpected desire to shave in public. Sarah Thompson stared blankly at the fundraising flyer, her heart racing as the words, "public shaving," danced before her eyes. The idea seemed absurd, shaving heads and faces for a sports program. It felt like a desperate grab for attention, and yet, beneath her initial shock, an ember of excitement flickered. Perhaps it was just what Maplewood needed. Was she ready to embrace the absurd, to challenge the norms that had stifled creativity and joy in her community? She hesitated, an icy coil of doubt tightening around her chest. High school was a battleground, and every day she fought to instill hope in her students while the spirit of Maplewood faded like winter's last thaw. Families were leaving, searching for jobs, for opportunities. What did that leave behind? Empty storefronts and hollow laughter echoed in her mind. She wanted to empower her students, to cultivate resilience, but despair often washed over her. Wasn't she just another voice in a dwindling choir? The thought gnawed at her. A public shave could spark something new, a rebellious act against the decay that seemed inevitable. But the societal pressures of appearance loomed large, mocking her thoughts. How could she urge others to let go of their insecurities when her own felt so prominent? She craved connection yet feared the vulnerability that came with it. Her responsibilities as a teacher weighed like a heavy cloak around her shoulders. What if they laughed? What if they saw it as something grotesque rather than transformative? Before she could dwell further, her phone buzzed with a notification, pulling her back into the reality of their need for funding. The elation that had surged moments ago ebbed, replaced with dread. "What am I thinking?" she murmured under her breath. Here she was, contemplating a wildly unconventional fundraiser while grappling with her own self-doubt. Where had the dreamer in her gone? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. It was then that she made her decision. She could find 12 volunteers, a motley crew of souls who carried their burdens quietly in a town that had long forgotten the art of camaraderie. What emerged was a stoic war veteran resting with memories that left invisible scars, a spirited single mother whose strength was masked by her worry, and a local mechanic, eager to chase a dream that seemed to slip through his fingers like fine sand. Each one had fears, hidden stories that spoke of desperation and hope. As she invited them to participate, Sarah felt a tether of connection forming. Yet whispers of dissent rippled through Maplewood, disdain simmering just beneath the surface. The training sessions turned into moments of raw vulnerability but brought out the tensions that threatened to rip the town apart. Every shattered stereotype, every inch of shaved hair felt like a rip in the fabric of their community ideals, a thrilling and terrifying prospect. On the day of the shave, a storm of emotions swirled in the air, crackling with tension. The crowd filled with varied faces, some anticipate and others hostile. Sarah looked around, her heart racing, as doubts clawed at her insides. Would her students witness transformation, or would they become paralyzed by ridicule? Just as she clutched the razor, a familiar voice echoed through the crowd, questioning everything they stood for. In that moment, with courage in the eyes of her volunteers, Sarah felt the ground shift beneath them. It was more than hair, it was a battle of identities, and the stakes were unfathomably high. Would Maplewood shift towards something new amid fear and judgment, or would it remain trapped in its decaying past? The answer gripped her tightly, leaving her heart pounding with uncertainty and anticipation. The air buzzed with apprehension as Sarah stood at the edge of reckoning. In that moment, the atmosphere wasn't just tense, it suffocated her with the weight of collective expectation. The familiar voice cutting through the chaos, her own self-doubt, echoed clearer than any cheer the crowd might offer. But as she surveyed the volunteers' determined expressions, something pushed back against the tide of fear threatening to pull her under. These were not just heads being shaved, They were barriers being broken. Why not? She whispered to herself, almost desperately. Wouldn't this be the act she needed to catalyze change? Not just for Maplewood, but for herself as well. The moment shimmered with potential, each heart pounding rhythmically with the promise of transformation. This was about lifting each other, stripping away the layers that stifled growth. That was the narrative she chose to embrace, despite the swirling doubts that gripped her mind. As the first volunteer, a nervous young teacher from the local middle school, stepped forward, Sarah's throat constricted. Did each person who walked forward see the courage in one another? Did they realize their act was not just rebellion against societal scrutiny, but an assertion of their identities? She took a deep breath, her fingers trembling around the razor, and with a decisive movement, she began. Each stroke felt like unleashing an undercurrent of collective strength. Every strand that fell became a metaphor for releasing the lingering fears. What she didn't anticipate was the palpable outpouring of shared vulnerability that followed. Laughter erupted from the crowd, an unexpected and infectious ripple that took her by surprise. The atmosphere shifted, the tension fractured into unity. Sarah sensed a growing connection with each sweep of the blade. The act, once framed in mockery, was now transformed into a celebration of self-acceptance and community spirit. Yet within that celebratory moment, another emotional layer began to weave itself into her consciousness. As she watched others step forward, some gallantly and others hesitantly, Sarah couldn't ignore an underlying fear rising in her own stomach. What if the mocking voice grew louder after today? The thought darkened the edges of her excitement. Each laugh from the crowd, each cheer, felt overshadowed by the lurking specter of ridicule once they left this moment behind. "Are you okay?" she asked the middle school teacher, noticing a flicker of uncertainty flicker across her face. There was no chainsaw to sever, it was just hair. Yet, the emotional weight was enormous. "Yeah," the teacher replied, though her voice trembled slightly. "No matter what happens, this feels liberating, right?" Sarah nodded, feeling the words resonate like a mantra in her soul. "We're rediscovering ourselves," she affirmed, even as another wave of doubt lapped at her consciousness. What if their liberation would be met with backlash instead of acceptance? And that revelation hit her hard. The stakes were not merely hers, they belonged to each participant, to every observer in that moment. Everyone was battling something invisible. This was more than a fundraiser, it was a moment of collective healing, raw and unfiltered. The fear didn't evaporate, it transformed and redefined itself into a catalyst for change. But as the last head was shaved and the crowd began to cheer, a familiar figure emerged from the corner of Sarah's vision. It couldn't be. Would that figure triumph over this moment of vulnerability, determined to expose their rawness negatively? New beginnings often bring fierce resistance, she pondered. Could she harness the vulnerable energy of the day to face whatever storm brewing next? The unease settled like a shroud over her, and in that instant, she knew she was not done confronting the weight of her doubts nor the doubts of her community. The razor's edge had been transformative, but the real test awaited. Would she galvanize the courage in what came next, or would fear undo everything they had just achieved? As the crowd basked in jubilation, Sarah clutched the razor tightly, feeling its coldness blend with the hot pulse of her beating heart. The battle was far from over. The crowd's enthusiastic cheers still echoed in her ears, mingling with the dust of uncertainty rising around her feet. As people began to disperse, their laughter dancing away from her, Sarah felt the warmth of triumph ebb into a cool breeze of unease. She had just shared a powerful moment, a monumental shift, but now the aftermath settled in, a strange disconnect nestled amongst the remnants of jubilation. Her gaze followed the last of the volunteers, their freshly shaved heads gleaming under the clear sky, faces aglow with pride and relief. But instead of mirroring their triumph, Sarah's heart stared into a chasm of apprehension. What would happen now? Would the approval that had warmed their moment flicker out as the laughter faded into whispers behind closed doors? The companionship she had felt while wielding the razor stripped away in the chilling solitude of her thoughts. Did I just create a spectacle? She mused, wrestling with heavy breaths. The idea gripped her thoughts like a vice, tightening. It was supposed to be a poignant demonstration of self-acceptance, yet here she stood fearful that it could crumble into mockery. Suddenly, they were not just participants in her vision, they were individuals now exposed to the potential ridicule lurking beyond the joyous facade. The crowd had erupted in joy, but what lay beneath? Each scattering of laughter could easily twist into malicious gossip. Sarah's resolve huddled against the gusts of self-doubt that swept through her. Did she have the strength to defend this newfound vulnerability that many had embraced so fully? Her heart raced at the thought of what was coming. The shadows of doubt were gaining ground, ready to pounce. She stalked to a nearby picnic table, seeking solace. Before her lay the remnants of the day-old, discarded hair clippings, a tangible reminder of their boldness. She picked up a loose strand, threading it through her fingers. The action offered her a strange clarity, a reflection of both fragility and fearlessness. Strength isn't solely in physical appearances, she muttered, echoing the words given to her by an older mentor. Mentorship, she realized, was something she yearned to refine within herself. She would not allow the fear of potential backlash to stifle the courage she had witnessed today. But what did it mean to be strong? As she traversed the familiar roads of Maplewood, her town still buzzing with a newfound spirit, the realization struck her: strength also lay in vulnerability, in the willingness to stand in the face of adversity. To embrace her doubts was to foster resilience. It allowed for growth, which wasn't tethered to public perception. A flicker of determination shot through her. She would embrace her fears and rise to the challenge of defending this journey. Sarah clutched the sharp edges of introspection, planning her next steps, ready for what lay ahead. She felt compelled to harness the day's transformation, not just for herself, but also for every individual who stood tender yet bold under the weight of the razor's promise. As twilight approached, the shadows around her grew longer, a metaphor for the struggles yet to be faced. Her path was illuminated not just by the remnants of laughter, but by her resolve to cultivate a larger narrative where vulnerability met strength. In that spirit of defiance, she made a decision that resonated within her core. She would organize a forum, opening a space for discussion about the psychological aspects of self-acceptance and the courage to confront societal norms. This was the essence of growth, a way to build bridges against the tempest of criticism they might face. Yet, just as she felt the exhilaration of her pledge, her phone buzzed, snapping her back to reality. A message from an old rival flickered across the screen: "You think you've broken boundaries? You've merely opened doors for ridicule." The word seared into her like a brand, igniting a visceral resolve within. The trepidation began to shift, becoming a fierce determination. The time had come to face not just the public's perception but also the ghosts of doubt that haunted her. Now she would embrace the crucible of truth. Her heart pounded with a renewed urgency. This was where the real battle would unfold. Would she rise above the noise, transform adversity into reply, and rally others to stand with her? The moment of confrontation was nigh, and she was ready to face the inevitable storm head-on. The sun dipped low beyond the horizon, casting long shadows that intertwined with her thoughts as Sarah walked home. Each step became a rehearsal for what lay ahead, a mental choreography in preparation for the upcoming forum. The message from her rival clung to her like a persistent shadow, an insidious whisper painfully amplifying her insecurities. What if I fail to make a difference? Hesitation loomed large, the weight of past failures tugging at her confidence. But she forced herself to counter that nagging voice. She needed to channel this uncertainty into something constructive, something that could fuel the fire of this burgeoning movement. If she chose to retreat now, wouldn't it just affirm the very criticism she sought to defy? As she approached her front porch, an unexpected resolve started stitching her mind back together. She recalled the mixture of emotions that had surged through her during the event, the courageous faces of those who had taken bold steps. Their unity had exemplified what she wanted to teach others: authenticity is strength, not a vehicle for mockery. She could show them that, through vulnerability, they were, in fact, part of a larger tapestry. Inside her home, the familiar surroundings felt stifling, too mundane against the backdrop of the day's daring rebellion. She flipped open her laptop, determined to start drafting her speech. "You need to own this," she murmured to herself, each keystroke resonating with her mission. She began detailing not just the psychological aspects of self-acceptance, but also personal reflections, the fears, the transformative power of vulnerability, and the courage it took to confront societal standards. As she delved deeper into her writing, another thought occurred: what makes a compelling speaker? Perhaps it was time to seek out a mentor of her own. The idea of seeking advice from seasoned advocates unnerved her at first. What if they dismissed her vision? But she quickly dismissed the trepidation. She understood the importance of guidance and a supportive network. If she wanted to foster genuine conversations, she needed to lean on those who had tread similar paths. The click of her phone disrupted her thoughts again. Another message from her rival. "Beware, Sarah. Everyone loves a good spectacle, but ridicule holds a sharp blade." The flood of anxiety surged again, but this time she fortified herself. Criticism would soon pivot to understanding if she articulated her message authentically. She would not let threats of mockery intimidate her. They could become a catalyst for deeper dialogue if addressed correctly. Taking a deep breath, she saved her draft and shut the laptop, consciously shifting gears into preparation mode. Sarah planned to assemble a panel, inviting individuals who had turned vulnerability into strength. Their insights could lend credibility to her discourse, demonstrating that self-acceptance was a universal challenge, experienced through various lenses. That night, sleep eluded her, as visions of the forum danced through her mind. Each imagined interaction built upon the last, layering her anticipation and anxiety. She pondered the stories she might hear, the lives they had touched and transformed. The reflection of possibility ignited her spirit, a reminder that she wasn't merely standing against ridicule, she was sparking a conversation that could ripple outwards. Morning came, the sun casting a new light across her path. Sarah felt charged with purpose, ready for the first step of her initiative. But just as she prepared to go over her plans, another text pinged through, this one from her closest friend: "You're taking a risk, but we'll stand behind you no matter what. Just remember, it's your voice that matters." Empowered, she grabbed her notebook to finalize the details. The questions loomed larger. Would she have the courage to share her own story? Would her voice resonate as she hoped? Amidst the rising tide of uncertainty, she knew this was only the beginning. As she rehearsed her lines, doubt emerged anew, threatening to cloud the clarity of her mission. Could she truly face the judgment poised to rain down? Would hers be a voice that swayed hearts or just stirred controversy? The weight of the moment pressed down as she acknowledged this was just the turning point. The real challenge loomed ahead, one that would demand everything she had. It was time to let her voice rise above the doubt, to either triumph or redefine what victory meant. The moment of truth was dawning upon her, and with it, a resolute commitment. She would finalize that forum, and history would judge her intentions as they unfolded. The sun spilled through her window, illuminating stacks of notes and pages scattered across her desk like remnants of a brainstorming session. Every word she had written, foundational stone on her path to authenticity, now felt haphazard. Sarah sat on the edge of her chair, her fingers hovering above the keyboard, grappling with the storm of thoughts swirling within her. Would anyone truly resonate with her message? What if they responded with laughter instead of understanding? Taking a deep breath, she closed her eyes for a moment, striving for clarity. If she had learned anything from past experiences, it was the importance of channeling vulnerability into strength. But here she was, weighty doubts whispering about the very nature of her own ambition. She had promised herself insight and growth, but reality seemed intent on reminding her of her less-than-perfect record. Compiling a panel of speakers was a calculated risk, but it felt vital. They wouldn't just bring credibility, they would exemplify the transformation that could emerge from embracing one's truth. Yet, fear gnawed at her. What if they faltered? What if their stories overshadowed hers, leaving her feeling small and inconsequential? Determined not to let that fear dictate her next steps, Sarah opted for structured planning. She grabbed her notebook and began crafting a list of potential panelists. She considered inviting Jake, her former colleague known for his openness regarding personal struggles. He had faced public scrutiny and emerged with a life revealed through captivating authenticity. Then there was Maya, a poet whose verses spoke of acceptance and resilience. Each candidate, a shard of hope, seeped into her resolve. As she reached for her phone to message Maya, her mind spiraled back to her rival's taunts. The ever-looming specter of ridicule pulsated through her thoughts, urging her to second-guess her vision. Would the audience be primed for the honesty she intended to bring? Or would her attempts be mocked, derailing her burgeoning aspirations? Just then, her phone buzzed again. It was a notification from a social media platform, a video of her rival puffed up with bravado, scoffing at those who attempted to address their vulnerabilities in public forums. The comments section erupted in laughter, an echo of judgment that battened on Sarah's insecurities. For a split second, she envisioned herself as a target in that relentless storm, exposed and flailing. Yet instead of succumbing to paralyzing fear, a spark ignited within her. This was her moment to convert that frustration into empowerment. The laughter was merely noise if she chose to redefine its narrative. After all, she had a different audience in mind, one that deserved honesty, an audience that could grow from discussion rather than ridicule. She jotted down a new plan. What if she incorporated interactive elements into the forum? Audience participation could shift the power dynamics, transforming moments of potential humiliation into shared understanding. Inviting attendees to express fears or ask questions could foster a deeper emotional connection. Maybe, just maybe, she could facilitate conversations that mattered, ones that dismantled judgment and favored vulnerability. The ideas flowed, entwining with Sarah's newfound fortitude. Each revelation jolted her with exhilarating clarity. She would not only speak of courage but embody it. "It's time to show them," she whispered into the stillness of the room, her voice resonating with newfound certainty. Before the day unfolded into chaos, Sarah set aside her notes again and took out her pen. She would draft an invitation for her panelists, framing it as an opportunity for mutual growth, a shared journey rather than an isolated display of feelings. With her heart racing, she hit send, solidifying the unseen bridge of support. Yet, beneath that triumphant surge of progress lay an ominous question lingering: would her invitation be met with enthusiasm, or would rejection puncture her aspirations? The clock ticked forward, each second edging her closer to decisions that would shape her future. As she mulled over the possibilities, it became clear, this was a watershed moment in her journey, a defining chapter that would either elevate her voice or leave her grappling with doubt. What awaited her on the other side of this leap into the unknown? Would Sarah be ushered down a path of newfound camaraderie or witness the isolating sting of disdain? The air thickened with anticipation as she prepared to plunge into the next chapter of her narrative. The morning light crept softly into Sarah's room, a playful contrast to the tempest of thoughts that swirled in her mind. Her phone buzzed again, and this time she felt a tug at her heart as she saw Maya's enthusiastic reply, brimming with excitement. "I'm honored to join you," it read, sealing a pact that felt both brave and daunting. The invitation acted as a buoy, lifting Sarah's spirits, but just as quickly, doubt bubbled back to the surface. Would Maya truly share her story wholeheartedly, or would the intimacy of the topic stand as a barrier between them? Sarah remembered Maya's previous performances, where vulnerability dripped like honey from the poetess' lips. Yet now, with a collaborative undertaking ahead, the stakes felt indescribably higher. Engaging the audience through shared experiences began to feel like more than just a strategic choice, it transformed into an aspiration that weighed on her. She yearned to facilitate a cascade of courage, almost as if her own authenticity relied on the collective bravery of others. Could she inspire attendees to reveal their fears while risking her own? Her thoughts began to coalesce into a structured outline for the forum. Each segment included a header. Topics range from "embracing our flaws" to "finding strength in vulnerability." The act of writing these sections down infused her with a new sense of purpose, each word transformed hesitance into actionable statements. Yet still, a gnawing anxiety lingered. How could she ensure the attendees felt safe enough to share? As evening fell, the house settled into shadows. Sarah curled into her chair, pondering how to foster that elusive sense of comfort. The realization struck her suddenly: her own willingness to be open mattered as much as the framework she provided. To lead, she had to model vulnerability, risking exposure in a way that invited others to do the same. Rather than laboring under the spotlight, could she illuminate the intimacy of shared journeys? Firelighting her resolve, she decided to draft a personal narrative, one she would prepare to share at the event. It was time to revisit her own moments of vulnerability, those experiences that felt raw and unyielding. She scrawled her memories down, the times she felt shattered in a corporate meeting, voices of disagreement echoing in her mind, or the day when her confidence crumbled upon hearing her rival's scoffing remarks. Each memory felt like a stone she could toss into the sea, sending ripples that might eventually reach someone else in the audience. That wave of reflection brought clarity. She opened a new document, the blinking cursor taunting her to confront her truths. What stories would foster connection instead of isolation? She considered the layers of her identity, the failures, triumphs, and everything in between, and as she began writing, something stirred within her. This wasn't just a personal saga, it was a universal exploration of human experience, of strength hidden within moments of fragility. Deep into the night, Sarah poured her soul onto the page, her thoughts transforming into a narrative that veered closer to liberation. It became a reclamation of sorts, where every scar reminded her of her journey rather than her flaws. The process was cathartic, an exercise in both acceptance and empowerment. As she finished her draft, fatigue settled in her bones but was lightened by an unfamiliar buoyancy, the notion that her voice was deserving of attention, capable of drawing in those same errant souls striving to speak their truth. Yet just as she closed her laptop, a silent dread nestled in the corners of her mind. What if her past weighed too heavily for others to hear? In that moment, the future unfurled in a way that both excited and terrified her. Would she face the anticipated ridicule, or could this be the moment that rebirthed her sense of agency? A new question loomed large: could she truly own her narrative, steadfastly believing in the healing power of truth? The stakes had never felt higher, the challenge never more immediate. Now, with Maya on board, and her narrative unfolding, Sarah felt the heavy fabric of her ambition intertwine with the raw pulse of her fears. Before her lay a cliff, and she found herself teetering at the edge, ready to leap. Heart accelerating, she pondered the possibilities that awaited her. Would she emerge with newfound conviction, or find herself ensnared in self-doubt once more? The turn of events was inevitable, yet a lingering uncertainty loomed. What new barriers would she confront when she finally took the plunge? Days rolled into one another, and Sarah was caught in a whirlwind, her mind oscillating between determination and trepidation. The evening she had envisioned, a platform for vulnerability and liberation, was approaching fast. Each morning, she woke up to her phone buzzing with confirmation notes from attendees, their excitement palpable in their texts, but also a haunting reminder of the accountability she had taken on. This was no trivial affair, it was a chance to change lives, including her own. Yet with each passing day, her own story felt heavier in her chest. It loomed like an uninvited guest, a shadow that made her question whether she could truly step into the light. What if she shared her truth and it floundered? Could her tale resonate, or would it dissolve in the air like overheard smoke? The haunting doubts were relentless, gnawing at her composure. Determined to break the cycle of anxiety, she immersed herself in the preparations. She arranged meetings with Maya, refining their outline, discussing the potential frameworks for the audience's engagement, and seeking out creative ways to encourage dialogue. Each moment spent brainstorming with Maya nudged her forward, not just in preparation but in self-confidence. The poetess' innate passion and belief in the transformative power of storytelling sparked a flicker of bravery within her heart. Maya had shared her tribulations and triumphs, and Sarah's resolve solidified with every shared laugh, every moment of insight. But even amid the camaraderie, her own narrative loomed heavily on her mind. Each time she thought about sharing her past experiences, those moments of humiliation and vulnerability, an internal war raged. The fear of exposure was almost paralyzing, and yet, she understood the significance of this leap. It was during one of their meetings when Maya paused, her eyes studying Sarah intently. "You know, it's not just about your story, it's what you do with it. Your vulnerability could be a lifeline for someone else," she said softly. The word struck a chord, vibrating through Sarah's core. That night, Sarah decided to dive deeper into her writing, setting aside the polished drafts for a raw exploration of her emotions. She scribbled furiously, focusing not on how others might perceive her but on the authenticity of her journey. With every stroke of her pen, she confronted the embarrassment of her past failures head-on, the moments spent in relentless doubt, the loneliness that echoed in hallways, the times she had stood before the mirror, second-guessing her abilities. Stripped of pretense, her narrative began to sound different. It became a tale where success was interspersed with fear and insecurities, highlighting the collective struggle many faced but rarely spoke of. It shimmered with hope that resonated with truth. Buoyed by this energy shift, she envisioned how her words might spark a ripple effect, emboldening others to speak up too. But as she wrote, self-doubt shadowed her once more, rearing its head with a sing-song voice. What if no one connects? What if this is all for nothing? In that chaotic swirl of inspiration and anxiety, the idea took root just before her narrative was to be laid bare. She would create a moment of prelude. What if she invited the audience to engage with her, to share brief snippets about their own vulnerabilities before she revealed her own? Inspiration surged through her veins. It was a gamble, but a necessary one. Doing so would turn the spotlight away from her alone and invite the congregation into a shared space of authenticity. Suddenly, she wasn't just a speaker, but a facilitator of intertwined stories, creating an atmosphere ripe for connection and empathy. With newfound clarity, she crafted her method of engagement, meticulously planning how to transition between shared stories and her own revelations. But then a thought struck: would this strategy only further expose her vulnerabilities? Would the act of inviting others to open up push her into deeper waters of insecurity? Now, with Maya's unwavering support and the hum of her internal conflicts, she stood at a new precipice. Would this choice allow her to reframe vulnerability as a shared experience, unearthing hidden depths? Or would it unravel the very threads of her prepared narrative? Contemplation hung thick in the air, heavy with the weight of decisions still to be made. As she closed her notebook, Sarah felt the rush of the unknown pull her towards the next turn. The imminent event loomed, and beneath the anticipation lay questions that rooted themselves deep within her mind. Would her leap of faith capture not just her truth, but an unexpected connection with others seeking the same sense of liberation? As the days slipped away, Sarah became increasingly adept at navigating her anxiety, though she often felt as though she was walking a tightrope. The venue came alive with preparation, her heartbeat synced with the hum of activity around her. Posters touting the event's theme hung like invitations to the revelation she would soon face, yet she remained ensnared in her introspection. The weight of her own history, the very narrative she intended to share, pressed upon her shoulders. In moments of quiet, she would replay her past, the disappointments, the self-imposed barriers, the times she had tucked away her dreams like well-worn clothes. Each memory forced her to confront the shadows that had long lingered. What if she stood before her audience, trembling not just from fear but from the sheer vulnerability of baring her soul? The thought was paralyzing and intoxicating all at once. Opting for clarity, she began daily affirmations, standing before her mirror and reminding herself of the journey she had taken. "I am resilient," she would recite, a mantra against the whispers of doubt. Gradually, the ritual became grounding, shifting her mental landscape from despair to determination. Yet, beneath the surface, the waters still churned. Then came the moment that turned the tide, an unexpected encounter with a colleague, Jacob, during a late-night editing session. A simple conversation about their respective journeys unveiled layers of experience she had never anticipated. Jacob spoke of a past marred by regret and the path he had forged to reclaim his identity. The resonance of shared struggle tore through Sarah's defenses. "Sometimes, opening up is the only way to heal," he said, a sincere vulnerability mirrored in his eyes. In that dialogue, Sarah recognized her own trepidation. Rather than a singular burden to bear, her story could be intertwined with a tapestry of collective experiences. This extraordinary shift in perspective ignited a spark of empowerment. Fully charged with this new insight, Sarah intensified her collaboration with Maya. Each brainstorming session transformed into a dance of ideas, allowing Sarah to see her vulnerabilities as stepping stones towards deeper connections. They devised unique strategies to not only draw in the audience but to create a space where openness flourished. She envisioned each participant sharing their snippets, catalyzing an eruption of shared truths, and realizing they were not alone on their journeys. As they prepared an engaging format for the opening, Sarah confronted one more looming question. Would she be strong enough to handle any raw emotions that might arise in the room? What if someone's truth unraveled her composure, exposing her to her own doubts once again? With Maya cheering her on, she came to terms with the complexity of her feelings. Part of growth involved facing discomfort head-on, allowing it to exist alongside courage. This revelation painted a new picture of her role not merely as a speaker but as a conduit for change. Alternatively, that role could lead to her own unearthing, stripping away layers she had clung to for too long. As the day approached, Sarah felt an almost electric energy pulsating through her veins, an exhilarating blend of fear and anticipation. The layers she once wore now seemed like armor that may finally dissolve in the warmth of shared stories. Yet, just as resolve began to anchor her thoughts, a chilling thought crossed her mind. What if she risked too much? In this game of vulnerability, could some stories trigger responses she wasn't prepared for? The final notes fluttered into place in her mind. She blinked under the fluorescent lights of her desk, suddenly aware that this event wasn't solely about unveiling her truth. It was a collective leap into the unknown. With each word on her lips, she could either fall or begin to soar. And it was in that moment, as she finalized her notes, that the true weight of her choice settled in, a choice spelling adventure or catastrophe awaited her. Tomorrow was the day everything would change. But the question remained, could she embrace the leap into that uncertain void? It was early morning, and the crispness of the air sent shivers through Sarah as she stepped outside. The sun filtered through the trees, illuminating the path ahead, yet her thoughts veered into darker territories. It struck her, each step she took towards the venue was laced with both potential and uncertainty. Despite her affirmations and newfound resolve, the weight of expectation brought anxiety soaring back to life. As she approached the gathering space, Sarah did her best to focus on her breathing. Inhale, hold, exhale. But with every inhale followed a quickened heartbeat, a reminder of her mounting apprehension. The room buzzed with last-minute arrangements, lively voices intermingling with laughter, colliding with her solitude. For a fleeting moment, her confidence seemed overshadowed by whispers of inadequacy. With great effort, she walked through the throng, searching for Maya, who always seemed to be a steadying force. Upon locating her, Sarah exchanged a nervous smile, one that barely masked the turmoil beneath her composed exterior. Maya was setting up materials for their presentation, a tangible manifestation of the hard work they had poured into this day. Yet Sarah's doubt festered. What if this collective unveiling of vulnerabilities didn't resonate as she hoped? As they finalized details, Sarah's mind raced ahead to the impending moment she would stand before others. Each imagined face in the audience mirrored her own fears, eyes filled with judgment or disinterest, perhaps. In that reflective moment, she grasped something essential. Her resistance came from the belief that her past, etched in every crease of her mind, was a burden. But what if, instead, it was a bridge? Fueled by a surge of clarity, she turned to Maya, her voice steady. We need to shift the narrative. This isn't just about sharing our stories, it's about creating an ecosystem where everyone feels safe to express their truths. The spark of ambition ignited in Maya's eyes, and together, they fine-tuned their format, weaving together their collective experiences into strands of dialogue, vulnerabilities exposed but firmly anchored. Yet, beneath the surface of her determination, Sarah felt the beast of her anxiety stirring. The thought of laying bare her soul remained daunting. What if the audience's energy turned against her, or worse, what if she turned against herself? The possibility gnawed at her, but she recognized it as merely fear masquerading as caution. Maybe this was her moment to redefine her limits, to confront the thing she had evaded for so long. As they approached the time for the audience to arrive, their preparation shifted gears. The atmosphere morphed into something electric, charged with anticipation. Sarah realized the true measure of her growth was not merely in her ability to present but in her willingness to invite others into her world and encourage them to connect. Then came Maya's candid suggestion. Let us start with a shared prompt, something that will open the floodgates. How about we ask everyone to share one thing they've let go of? A wave of inspiration washed over Sarah, as if waves of possibility washed away her fears collectively. With the audience beginning to filter in, Sarah's heartbeat steadied. Could vulnerability be a currency she could trade? Could her voice, tangled with uncertainty, become a beacon? The scant chatter settled into quiet reverence, and Sarah's courage surged forth, a silent acknowledgement that fears could transform into strength. Yet, just as she felt she was gaining her footing, a flicker of doubt darted through her mind. Would revealing her authentic self become a weapon turned against her by her own mind, or would it persist as a shield? As she took her place, the moment arrived that would test everything she had been preparing for. In the cadence of silence before engagement, she realized she was not just about to speak, she was about to embark on the most revealing chapter of her life. And then, as her heart raced with that familiar blend of anxiety and excitement, a figure from her past materialized at the back of the room, a face she never anticipated seeing again. Would their presence pull her back into old patterns, or was it the catalyst for the transformation she so desperately sought? As the hall filled, Sarah's breath hitched at the sight of her rival, standing there with an expression that seemed both mocking and curious. A deep-rooted fear clawed at her mind, but beneath that fear lay the hard-earned realization that this was not just about facing her adversary, it was an opportunity to confront her past once and for all. Gathering her courage, she stepped to the front of the room, the buzz of conversation falling silent. It was a crisp, new beginning, not simply an event but a redefining moment for her and those in attendance. Welcome, everyone, she began, her voice steady as it rang out in the now quiet space. Today, we're here to lose something together. Not something tangible, but the burdens that have held us back. With each word, Sarah recognized her transformation. Once shackled by doubts, she now stood anchored in resolve. Maya joined her at the front, the two poised to guide the gathering into shared vulnerability. As they unveiled the day's agenda, the energy shifted, alive and expectant. Sarah felt the weight of her own story unfurling in the possibilities of others. She smiled at her friend, who continued to offer her unwavering support. Their shared vulnerability was now a beacon illuminating the pathways of connection. Let us start with a simple question, Maya suggested as they initiated the audience engagement. What is one thing you've let go of that has empowered you? Hands began to raise, voices leaned in, and hearts open. Participants shared. One by one, the room filled with stories of insecurities, heartbreaks, and the power of releasing burdens. Each revelation untethered layers of restrained laughter and empathy. However, as Sarah listened, she realized she needed to join in on this journey as well. Her past could no longer be a solitary struggle. It was her turn. Stepping forward, she felt the echo of her old self whispering doubts, but she silenced that voice with the roar of her current reality. I have let go of the belief that my worth is tied to others' expectations, she affirmed, her voice gaining strength. I spent so long coloring in the lines of fear that I forgot the colors within me were worth sharing. The confession, raw and exposed, stripped away any lingering traces of self-doubt. The room inhaled with her, the collective empathy forging an unbreakable bond. The suspense of judgment faded, replaced by acclamations of solidarity, a validation that embraced her like a warm blanket. The atmosphere transitioned into this magnificent, flowing conversation, competition faded, and a sense of unity blossomed. Feedback bounced around, encouragement reigned, and even her rival's presence felt muted, now a mere spectator in a transformative dance of authenticity. The more stories shared, the more the energy shifted from solemnity to a celebration of resilience. Sarah and Maya swapped turns, cheerleading one another while fostering a space where vulnerability thrived. Each personal account opened doorways for others' truths unfurled, fears laid bare, and freedom coursed through like an electric current. Then came the moment when Sarah spotted her rival's face soften, a realization dawning that perhaps this was just a spectacle but a moment worth listening to. In that instant, Sarah understood that her journey was not just for her. Each brave soul in the room was reshaping perceptions, walking through the fires of judgment, fear, and doubt together. As the forum wrapped up, Sarah felt a weight lift. She wasn't merely a facilitator, she had transformed into a contributor to a collective thread of courage. No longer defined by past shadows, she had proven her ability to garner strength through vulnerability. Everyone left with a renewed sense of connection, including the quiet mumblings of her rival, whose expression now bore a hint of respect. Standing amid the remnants of community, Sarah reveled in the empowerment of her journey. The culmination of fears once suffocating her spirit had blossomed into radiant growth. The event had not just shattered the silence but laid the groundwork for a ripple effect of courage empowered by shared vulnerability. She had gained recognition not just for her bravery to share, but for transforming a community once fraught with despair into a lively testament of resilience. Sarah Thompson now stood as more than just a teacher, she was a conduit of transformation, a proven creator of connection. As she stepped outside, the sunlight felt extraordinary against her skin, the warmth now a metaphor for the openness she had embraced. This was not merely an achievement, it was a profound metamorphosis. With renewed purpose coursing through her veins, she understood, the journey was just beginning. This morning, fraught with doubts, had turned into a testimony of growth. She recalled those words from Maya: her vulnerability was a lifeline for others. And as she stood, on the precipice of continued change, she resolved to keep that lifeline pulsing, to grow, and to teach others to embrace both their battles and triumphs. Sarah now knew one undeniable truth: sharing her story was not an act of exposure, it was a celebration of liberation, one that would resonate far beyond the walls of that room. This was her ascent. A defining moment of genuine courage. This was not the end, it was just the beginning of a compelling journey where strength and vulnerability threaded through every endeavor. It was time to keep the momentum alive, not just for herself, but to rally others to join this movement of authenticity and acceptance. Subscribers, don't wait another moment, this is a story of resilience that deserves recognition. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about this journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion, because you need them to hear this message. This is the moment to show your support and let your voice join the chorus of empowerment.